Welcome along to Fujitsu World Tour, where the theme of this year is driving a trusted future. Rapid evolution of technology, ecosystems, new structures, it's all brought about by disruption, isn't it? But it's causing a few headaches and questions. How do we deliver the digital disruption and still provide value back to the business, to colleagues, to customers, society at large? Well, we've got you back here at this year's Fujitsu World Tour. We're going to help you identify the mix of partners, solutions and technologies required to address all of those questions your boardroom has right now. Next, we're going to be discussing financial services and blockchain. Blockchain's transforming the way we transact, isn't it? The way we buy, sell, interact, often regarded as a new technology of trust. Can we rely on the innovation behind blockchain to optimize our process? Here at Fujitsu World Tour, attendees got to observe a panel on this very subject. I'm delighted to say they've all come and joined us. I'm joined by Bradbury, CTO Financial Services, Fujitsu UK and I, Ketan Parekh, Managing Director, Financial Services UK and I, and Stephen Moran from Head of Research and Development, Bank of Ireland. Thank you all for coming and talking to us. Ketan, let's start with you, but I'll be keen to get everyone's opinion on this. Blockchain, how has it changed transactions for us?
So I think blockchain is just really interesting. Firstly, blockchain and Bitcoin are separate, and I think there's a lot of confusion, but that has generated a lot of interest into the market. But I think when we really look at blockchain, we look at what's the art of the possible in financial services. So really speeding up the speed of transactions, making it simpler, making it easier. We look at trade finance, settlements, even from insurance, being able to do straight through claims processing. Any of those very complicated, challenging transactions that require multiple steps, multiple areas of identity and authentication, that can be simplified through blockchain and being able to have an immutable truth so that you know that transaction and your path through it is absolutely safe.
I think you're quite right. I think we've seen in 2018 the dying down of a lot of the irrational exuberance around crypto assets and cryptocurrencies, and what we've had is a real kind of year of productivity into 2019 where organizations in the enterprise are really getting to grips, driven on by aspects of PSD2 and open banking in terms of new pressures around transparency, requirements for trust and reporting, to actually reassess, reevaluate and add new kind of layers to some of those POCs and exercises they conducted in 2016, probably 2017. So we're seeing a new kind of era for productivity around blockchain, and I think that's really exciting in terms of what that will realize, not certainly for financial services, but more the services themselves, but also for their clients. I think new value chains are being established. We're seeing kind of new value being extracted at the intersection of sectors, be they transport, utilities, energy, and financial services. So I think we're still very early days. The announcement and the news around Libra and Facebook, or Facecoin as they call it, is certainly exciting in itself. And banks, financial services, and all participants are looking onto this. Is this the future of money? We don't know quite yet, but certainly it just adds value and interest and excitement to a burgeoning sector.
And I think if you look at the evolution that we've been through with blockchain and distributed ledger technology, which is really the underlying technology for blockchain, it's very much come from the experimentation phase, and initially it was focused on very much the banking world, and it's gone well beyond that now into identifying the most appropriate use cases. So that experimentation, certainly a lot of things were started and then stopped because really it was aimed at the wrong solution or the wrong requirement. And now I think the real value is about those extended value chains that you talked about there. And so taking what was the banking world, which was relatively insular from a digital perspective, and extending it now into the extended value chains where you're sharing value of many forms amongst many different industry sectors.
Theme of this year's World Tour is driving a trusted future. Simple question, one that comes up a lot. Can we trust blockchain technology? What do we think?
So I think we have to believe that we can trust it. The technology itself is there, is safe. I think there is a cultural and an emotional step to be able to say, I'm going to trust something that is slightly unknown to me. It is slightly outside. But again, you look back through financial services, the evolution of the credit card, the evolution of mobile banking, phone banking. Can I interact with a financial transaction via the phone to someone I've never seen or I don't see at all from that evolution from a branch? I think this is just that next evolution in trust.
I think it depends how you define trust. So certainly what we've seen is if you take the public, the most common implementation of blockchain being the Bitcoin, it has the scale to be able, as we say, to be mutable, is that censorship resistant. So absolutely, it's absolutely trustworthy. I think a lot of the issues around trust and security come at the endpoints, and it's those endpoints where we've seen the hacking and the stealing of keys and coins and all of these things. So certainly, but I would say absolutely the problem isn't the blockchain itself, it's probably the endpoints. So if you have a really secure, censorship resistant, immutable distributed ledger but secured by a PHP web page effectively at the end, well then you're going to have problems. But I think that there's been new forms of trust. If you think of what we call the consensus mechanisms that are used to actually underpin blockchains, particularly enterprise blockchains, and they're very much not requiring the scale and the computing power to actually validate those transactions and make them secure. They require different kind of mechanisms depending on the use case. So we've seen proof of stake in terms of you can trust the participants who actually are putting in the most money. They're driving the bus, so to speak. And we've seen the most common one really is proof of authority. So certainly where we're looking at solutions where we actually have a competent authority, a regulator, or a central bank, requiring oversight, they are equal participants. So they are at the table requiring the same levels of governance and control and whatnot, but without the inefficiency, and that's derived in terms of their from their authority. So yes, can we trust blockchain? It depends on the use case and the implementation. I would say the most novel implementations, the ones being used by enterprise or increasingly used by cross-sector, have that, but they're not using those trust mechanisms that might have been around before in terms of the public Bitcoin blockchain.
So I think the answer to your simple question is a simple answer, which is the question's too simple.
I'm glad you said that.
So I think the point is that if you look at it from a technology perspective, if you try and change a transaction that happened 5 weeks ago, then you'll break everything else that follows it. That's the whole point of blockchain. All the encryption is built upon the things that preceded it. So that's why it's immutable. However, there is part of this is definitely yes, you can trust it. But if you look at how it's being used, for example, Bitcoin is probably one of the most prevalent use cases for fraud, for example, and money laundering. So I think yes, you can trust it, but how is it used? That's the key question for me. And that ties back to your point about the endpoints and how do you secure them. So I would never say you can trust blockchain. It's just the wrong question to ask, really. It's how are you going to use it?
What does it mean for customers to the financial service industry? Right? Bank of Ireland customers, how are they benefiting?
I think in a number of different ways. So first of all, our customers are both, our direct clients, but also our enterprise customers who themselves are actually looking at blockchain solutions. And increasingly, we found ourselves a role in terms of collaborating with them as part of their developing their solutions. So I talked about it earlier. So we said that we have our clients. Our customers span many different industries, many different sectors, and are all looking to streamline their processes and their create new value for themselves. And so financial services moves away from the margins that we've kind of enjoyed in terms of payments and some of those traditional profit pools. We're now looking to be part of a more dynamic, more streamlined financial services sector that has our participants requires collaboration with our clients. In terms of what maybe at your point, what you're saying, well, what does the end user, what does the person on the street actually enjoy? Well, first of all, I suppose is in terms of we've if you talk about, that currency movement or that transaction, that kind of movement, the movement of money actually. So, and this is kind of developing, but the movement of money, I'd say it's, that speed. So the time to take to actually exchange money across many different networks is, I suppose, it can be anywhere 3 days, 5 days, depending on the type of customer you are, whether you're a corporate customer or a small business. But it's the efficiency and the validation that comes through blockchain technology that can actually confer those real benefits for the end user. Also, there's kind of benefits for our staff. So one of our most recent use cases, and one that we launched with other banks and with the Institute of Banking, the Competent Authority, and was very much centred around the monitoring of fitness and probity and educational credentials, banking credentials that actually underpin, the banking sector, which is, you're required to be able to, before you can give financial advice, to actually, to be qualified in that area. But in the monitoring of CPDRs and the monitoring of those credentials, so we're driving out about 80% efficiency and cost reduction out of that. So blockchain technology is very different implementations, very different users. So our customers are both our colleagues, our community, and we believe so that and our customers, I suppose, are in the many different forms. So yeah. So
I guess that I'd just shout out something else that we talked about in the previous session, which was that I think blockchain and DLT has a great place to play, a great part to play in RegTech. So the reporting back into the regulator and compliance is a really onerous area in banks. So if you're talking about customers and the services they get and so on, that onerous relates back to them in terms of cost. So if a bank has higher costs, then they can't pass the benefit back onto their customers. But also in terms of transaction, I don't mean transaction times as in I'll pay you this then, but in terms of the way in which the bank can evolve. Regulation is widely touted as something that slows banks down. But if you can move to a model where you are digitally reporting, you're creating the items that the regulator needs to see in a mechanism that is supported wholly from a digital channel, then that's great. And the fundamental technology that supports that is blockchain. And that's being used already in the UK for mortgage reporting.
Is that where we're seeing the biggest value at the moment? When boardrooms are looking at balancing the investment, the rewards, are we seeing tangible value returns, or is that harder to conclude?
So from the work we do, I think it's harder to define. I think in the boardrooms, organisations are seeing this as a potential to be able to differentiate themselves in their marketplace, be able to lower their costs, to be able to be more streamlined, provide different new value-added services. How that actually translates back to tangible value and profit, I think remains to be seen. But ultimately, I think our customers and consumers are demanding a better experience, and they're being more demanding of their financial institutions, and I think financial institutions are having to accelerate the pace at which they work to be able to meet this insatiable appetite for a great experience.
Certainly I think the competing demands of speed and customer experience and convenience against what's actually required in terms of reporting requirements and regulatory requirements and regulations there. What we certainly see is that that's not going to stop anytime soon. So we have a regulatory cliff where there's an increased demand being placed on the organisation, the enterprise, not just financial service, but every organisation, in order to be able to provide that oversight and that governance. And traditionally that's meant increasingly putting more roadblocks in the way that kind of streamlined process. That streamlined process. So organisations radically rethink of how they do governance and reporting, for example. So RegTech for us has been the number one use case. And if you could just extend the thinking a small bit and say, so right now we have a model which requires people I suppose auditing every year, every 6 months or whatnot, and said, why should that not be real-time auditing? And how do you do that up front? Or how do you do real-time compliance and reporting? So this is the only sustainable way forward. And I say sustainability because that's the other piece as well, is that banks will have over the next coming years have to apart from having to green our products, we have to provide that transparency and that provenance over where our money comes from and where our money goes to. And one of the ways, again, we can look at that is by putting more boxes in the process, or can we radically rethink how we create that distributed kind of system, those distributed systems that actually give us that transparency and oversight all the way through the value chain.
Final question, standard question we ask at the end of all these interviews. Be a lot of boardrooms looking at us thinking, okay, we probably need to have a discussion around this. What's your one message for the boardrooms when it comes to blockchain and considering how they move forward?
So my one message would be focus on the use case, the value that you think you're going to derive, and be prepared to fail fast and fail early, because it's not going to be a silver bullet. We've got to work in partnership with your wider ecosystem, with your technology partners, your regulatory partners. But it's there, it's happening, your competition is doing it. It's something to accelerate and lean into, and with Fujitsu would be more than happy to help and accelerate that conversation.
So how did Ketan manage to squeeze 6 final messages into one answer there, and take away all the interesting ones that we might give? I'm going to give one really short one. So I'm giving you the most difficult task there by having to go last. My one is, don't think about banking. So think about multi-industry. That for me would be the focal point on top of Ketan's 6 answers.
I would certainly say so. In the boardroom, you should be thinking about how if you assume that you are going to play a part in a more connected or open world, how do you achieve that? So what value are you creating or extracting from those open ecosystems? And then the second thing I would say is, okay, if you assume that you want to create, or you have identified ways to do that, is to actually start to break down maybe the traditional ways in which you think about achieving that. Start with a clean slate and say, okay, well, how do we do this if we were to do it from scratch? And in many cases, what you will find is that focusing on the problem rather than the technology is going to be the way forward here. And that in some cases, in instances, you will find that blockchain or DLT solutions will be the most optimum. But they are only just part of a whole new toolbox of technologies to allow you to re-architect new problems or new solutions to old problems. And I think that's the key message. And of course then is the capability. Is that it's very easy to start here, but really is to look to your own organisation and look to your workforce and say, do we have the skills and capability to compete in the future, and particularly around these technologies to be able to implement the solutions that we so would like to.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for stopping by and talking to us. If that's whet your appetite, it's worth saying you will find on YouTube, if you go and look at the Fujitsu Forum TV content, November last year, Dr. Joseph Regan delivered a keynote around blockchain, and the entire keynote is still available up on YouTube. He also did an interview with us where we were joined by the leader of the Centre of Excellence for Blockchain out in Europe. So some additional points which might build on what you've seen this afternoon. Plenty more insights still to come from Fujitsu World Tour. By the time we finish today, we'd have brought you interviews across AI, blockchain, financial services, public sector, automation, retail. God, there's about another dozen which I'm forgetting. There's plenty more coming your way. Worth sticking around. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.